The story begins with a group of people who notice a boy standing on a bridge over a river to end his misery. One of the men in the crowd suggests that someone should call 119 since the boy is just one step away from falling into the river. The boy is looking into the river and wondering whether these people are worried about him. However, he hopes that they are not because they are just the same as the bullies who have been tormenting him since the very beginning. In the past, we see that the boy is a high schooler and he has been bullied by his classmates. A boy's phone rings, and he sees several messages from bullies talking about him. The boy's name is Lee Kyung-ho, and he begins to lose his grip. Suddenly, a cyclist passes by and notices him. The cyclist advises the boy to calm down and come up to where he is first. The cyclist tells him that school life can be hard, but to think about his family and how they would feel if he did what he was intending to do. The cyclist encourages the boy to think about his family and how devastated they would be if he were to take any drastic actions. Kyung-ho saw a cyclist and smiled, but tears were in his eyes. He explained to the cyclist that his family members had all passed away, and then he suddenly jumped off. He was in the water and felt like he was dying. He thought that if he quickly inhaled the water, it would be less painful. However, he still felt like he was suffering. His body was engulfed with water and he felt his lungs ripping apart. He went deep into the river and said, "Mom is waiting for me there." We witness a lady floating in the air with wings on her back holding a scythe and looking Kyung-ho. We see Kyung-ho on a stretcher being pulled towards an ambulance by a paramedic. Kyung-ho is half conscious and wondering who informed the paramedics about the situation. He thinks to himself that he wasn't able to end his life the way he wanted to. Kyung-ho was returning from the hospital in the evening when he came across a lady with wings. She introduced herself as Sierra, a Grim Reaper. Kyung-ho seemed unfazed by her appearance, prompting Sierra to ask if he was surprised. Kyung-ho asked if she was there to take his life. Sierra apologizes to Kyung-ho and tells him that she can't help him with what he's looking for. However, she offers to make a deal with him. If Kyung-ho agrees, he can use something called an underworld ticket to borrow the power of the dead, including famous people like Leonardo da Vinci or General Lu Bu. Kyung-ho doesn't seem interested, but Sierra points out that his desire to see his mother again is unlikely to be fulfilled in the underworld. She explains that his mother's soul is still lingering in this world, but she can't seem to find him. Kyung-ho ignores Sierra and walks away. In the next scene, three guys are standing on a street. One of them has a little cat baby and is saying he can make a music tune out of its weeping sound. It appears that all three guys are harassing the cat. Kyung-ho is passing through the street and hears some sounds coming from there. He sees the three guys harassing a cat and approaches them. Kyung-ho tells them to let the cat go, or they will kill it. Two of the guys look at him angrily. The one who has the cat asks Kyung-ho if it's his. Kyung-ho says no, but tells him to release the cat. He shows the guy his phone and informs him that the cat has a family and the police have been informed. To hear that the guy who grabs a cat punches Kyung-ho's stomach. The blonde guy, named Hyo-jong, who is a boxer, hits him. After they beat him up, they talk and joke about him. Kyung-ho fell into a corner and we see in the flashback Kyung-ho and his mother were on a sinking ship in the sea. A helicopter flew over and announced that everyone should wear their life jackets. Kyung-ho's mother gave him her life jacket and told him to wear it. He was crying and asked what would happen to her. Suddenly, his mother's body started to bleed and turn red. She decided to give her life jacket to her son and smiled at him, saying, "I love you." A wave came and she drowned in the water. Kyung-ho shouted for his mother and was very worried about her. The cat is looking at Kyung-ho. Kyung-ho wonders why the cat didn't run away, since he helped it. The baby cat walks towards him and Kyung-ho reassures it that it doesn't have to be afraid. The baby cat passes by Kyung-ho's side. Hyo-jong insulted Kyung-ho's family and threw his cigarette at him. Kyung-ho became angry and frustrated, which led him to sign a pact with Grim Reaper. Sierra witnessed this and smiled while standing on an electronic pillar. After the incident, three guys walked away from Kyung-ho. Despite being beaten, Kyung-ho stood up and a spiritual flame surrounded him. The three guys looked back at him in surprise. Kyung-ho stood in a boxing pose while they laughed. Two guys ran towards Kyung-ho to punch him. One of them tried to punch him, but Kyung-ho dodged all the punches like a professional boxer. Hyojong was surprised to see his boxing tactics and challenged him to a boxing match at 7 p.m. in Hansung Gym. Suddenly, Hyojong tried to punch Kyung-ho, but Kyung-ho dodged the punch and counterattacked him. His one punch was enough to knock Hyojong down. Kyung-ho's two friends were afraid to see a boxer like him fighting. It seemed like there was a Muhammad Ali spirit inside Kyung-ho's body, who is a king of boxers. Kyung-ho was approached by Sierra, who asked for his thoughts on the underworld ticket. Kyung-ho then inquired about how he could find his mom. Sierra told him that he needed to find someone who could see spirits. She informed him that if he met that person while using the underworld ticket, he too could see spirits. Kyung-ho asked her if he would finally be able to see his mom. Sierra replied that when he borrowed the strength of the dead, he would be able to see his mom for an hour, which would cost him a year of his life. She also mentioned that humans could live up to 100 years, so losing around 20 to 30 years was not a big deal. She then asked Kyung-ho how long he wanted to do this. He replied that he only needed one ticket for a year. Sierra was surprised, but Kyung-ho smiled and told her to take everything and leave him with a year, and a pact is sealed between them. Kyung-ho was at home the next morning, lying in his bed and thinking about the incident that had occurred earlier. He remembered a conversation he had with Sierra about a pact. Sierra had explained to him that he was borrowing the strength of Muhammad Ali. She then demonstrated how it worked by touching a wall with her hand, and a big gate appeared behind her. She called it a Heaven's Gate, which was filled with a list of spirit names. She gave Kyung-ho a red ticket, which was required to open the gate. The ticket could be purchased by using his lifespan, and as long as he had it with him, he could open it whenever he wanted. If he designated the spirit he wanted to become in advance, he could use it right away. Kyung-ho was having a conversation with Sierra, who told him that if he tore apart a ticket, he could gain some power. Sierra also informed him that the active duration of that power was only 1 hour for the tickets she would give him. She gave Kyung-ho just one ticket and promised to give the remaining tickets whenever she returned from the underworld. Moreover, she also promised to give him 100 tickets as a service. Amid their conversation, Sierra suddenly gave Kyung-ho a necklace and said that it would shine when he came close to his mom's spirit. Kyung-ho was confused and asked her what he should do since he couldn't see spirits. Sierra replied that he only needed to make physical contact with a child who could see spirits while possessing the ticket. Kyung-ho was curious and wanted to know more details, but Sierra suddenly flew away into the sky and said that the person he was looking for was not far from him. Kyung-ho wore the necklace that Sierra gave him. Later, when he opened his classroom door at school, his bullies' classmates looked at him. They had covered his seating area with dirty drawings. As Kyung-ho tried to grab his books from his table, he saw that his hand was covered in ink. His bullies had put ink all over his books. Kyung-ho threw his books in the trash. During a break, a guy was showing off his nunchucks to a group of people. Suddenly, he attacked Kyung-ho's back with the nunchucks and made a disrespectful comment about Kyung-ho's mother. Kyung-ho became angry and yelled at him to stop, threatening to fight back. This surprised his classmates. The guy kicked Kyung-ho in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. Kyung-ho then remembered that Sierra had given him a ticket to find someone who could see spirits, but he realized that it was the only one and he didn't want to waste it. Instead, he made a joke and pretended he had misunderstood the guy's identity. His classmates laughed at him. Afterward, Kyung-ho sat down and thought about how he could find someone who could see spirits. He wondered if he should touch every student in the school to find them. He decided that he couldn't waste any more time and needed to start looking for them immediately. Kyung-ho walked down a hallway and noticed two girls talking to each other. He approached one of them and introduced himself as Lee Kyung-ho, a practitioner of chiromancy, and asked if she had heard of it. He explained that he was currently offering his services for free and offered to read her palm. The girl was surprised but agreed. Kyung-ho took her hand and looked at it, but didn't find anything noteworthy. He then walked away, and the girl reminded him that he had offered to read her palm. After school, Kyung-ho was walking on a road and noticed that asking 10 people a day like this was a bit hard. He saw on his ticket that he only had 364 days remaining to his death. He also thought that without the underworld ticket, he couldn't find that person related to the gleaming amethyst. He couldn't use this ticket until Sierra gave him the rest of them. He heard some sounds coming from the streets and saw the guy who had beaten him in school earlier. He and his gang were harassing a girl. Kyung-ho thought about whether he should save her, but he walked away. However, one of his gang members with an orange jacket saw Kyung-ho and grabbed his neck with his hand. He asked Kyung-ho where he had been when he skipped school all this time. The boy who beat up Kyung-ho earlier was named Hyung Seob. He took Kyung to the street where he and his gang were harassing a girl. Kyung-ho was thinking that if he had several tickets, he could get rid of the gang bothering him. Suddenly, one of the gang members pulled down Kyung-ho's pants, revealing his black underwear. Kyung-ho looked angry, and Hyung Seob noticed. Hyung Seob told Kyung-ho to brighten up his expression, but Kyung-ho smiled instead. Unfortunately, Hyung Seob slapped Kyung-ho, causing him to fall to the ground. Hyung Seob then kicked him and asked his gang to pass him the nunchucks, which he used to hit Kyung-ho's stomach. This was not the first time Hyung Seob and his gang had harassed Kyung-ho in school. Kyung-ho managed to stand up and walk away, but one of the gang members hit him on the head with the nunchucks and threatened him to bring money next time. He sees that Kyung-ho wears a shining necklace. He pulled it from Kyung-ho's neck. Kyung-ho asked him to give it back, but the boy refused, saying that it wouldn't be fun if he gave it back so easily. Instead, he gave Kyung-ho an old milk box and challenged him to drink it all at once. He said that if Kyung-ho could do it, he would return the necklace. The milk was a month old, and to make it a little better, they added smoked cigarettes as MSG. Kyung-ho drank the milk without hesitation and asked for the necklace back, but the boy refused, saying that he was lying, and then threw the necklace on the ground and crushed it. This made Kyung-ho upset, and he punched the boy hard in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. Kyung-ho faced a group of guys and lifted his nunchucks, announcing that he didn't want to fight but to do something more important with his life. He spun the nunchucks like a professional martial artist, surprising the gang members. Inside Kyung-ho's spirit was Bruce Lee, founder of Jeet Kune Do. Hyung Seob, the gang leader, ordered his gang to attack Kyung-ho. Kyung-ho dodged every attack and used his nunchucks to counterattack. When 3 guys were attacking him, he grabbed one and used him as a shield while dealing with the other 2. Hyung Seob tried to punch Kyung-ho, but he kicked his leg and punched him in the head multiple times, then finished him off with a punch to the stomach. After all the gang members were knocked out, Kyung-ho walked toward Hyung Seob and warned him not to ask for money or outcast anyone ever again. He threatened to tear all his limbs if he ever saw him doing it again and demanded an okay in response. He pulls out a ticket and wonders if this is what satisfaction feels like since he managed to beat everyone. But he quickly realizes that he still doesn't know when he will get the rest. Suddenly, he spots a girl who was harassed by a Hyung Seob. The girl has found her belongings from one of Hyung Seob's gang members and thanks him for helping her find them. She also notices a special ring that belongs to her and is relieved that Kyung-ho found it. She mentions that it would have been worse if he hadn't been there. Then, she tells him she has something urgent to do and promises to reward him if they meet again. Kyung-ho suddenly remembers that this girl might be the one who can see spirits, but she's already gone. Kyung-ho met with Sierra one morning to inform her that his necklace had broken. Sierra fixed the necklace for him and also gave him an additional 100 tickets as promised earlier. Kyung-ho wore his necklace and left his house, running down the street. While running, he collided with a girl who was holding an ice cream cone and wearing a hoodie. The girl's ice cream fell to the ground and was wasted due to the collision. Kyung-ho apologized and gave her some coins, telling her to buy anything she wanted as he had something urgent to attend to. He then ran away from the scene, leaving the girl looking confused about what had just happened. In the next scene, Kyung-ho meets the girl who was harassed by Hyung Seob earlier. They sit together at a table and chat. The girl tells Kyung that she can see spirits and that if he wants to find his mother, who has passed away, she will do her best to help him. Kyung is excited and asks if it's true that she can see spirits. The girl notices a ring Kyung is wearing and explains that it has telekinetic power, which helps her feel the presence of spirits better. Suddenly, she hits Kyung's head with a spoon and apologizes, explaining that a vindictive spirit has been trying to attach itself to him for 300 years, and if it had succeeded, he would have suffered for a few days. The girl tells Kyung that her power is inherited from her family and that she usually accepts reservations from clients in the evening. But since Kyung is special, she will make an exception and meet him during the day. Earlier, the girl who had her ice cream wasted passes by the restaurant and wonders if Kyung is the one who did it. Kyung thanks the girl for her help. That girl recommended a chocolate and orange parfait at a particular place, but Kyung Ho interrupted her, bought an expensive item for her, and wondered about the spirits she mentioned. According to her, he could see the spirits if he made physical contact with her. However, the girl suddenly saw a man and ran away. Kyung Ho followed her, but both of them disappeared. Later, Kyung Ho saw the girl and the man running away from him. He decided to chase them and find out why someone was chasing her. While running, he encountered the ice cream girl again, accidentally knocking over her bag of cat food. Despite his efforts, he could not find the girl and the man in the crowd. Kyung Ho then cut an underworld ticket in half and saw that there was Silvio Carter's spirit inside him, who was a long jump athlete. Kyung Ho jumped from one terrace to another roof, trying to locate a girl and a man. He saw the girl running towards another street and decided to follow her. However, on his way, he accidentally stepped on a cardboard box that the ice cream girl had made for her cat. The girl was furious and demanded an explanation. Kyung Ho apologized and offered to fix it, but the girl was not satisfied with his attempt and said that it looked like trash. Kyung Ho tried to reason with her, but they ended up getting into an argument. He decided to leave and walk down the street when he saw the man who was chasing the girl. The man showed him a poster of the girl, claiming that she was a scammer, and asked him about his relationship with her. A man approached Kyung Ho and accused him of being with a woman who scams people by pretending to see spirits. The man noticed Kyung Ho's reaction and suggested that he was also scammed. Kyung Ho felt foolish and regretted his actions. He sat down and saw the girl again. She was murmuring to herself. Kyung Ho impulsively touched her hand and suddenly saw many spirits around them. The girl was annoyed and asked him why he did that. Kyung Ho admitted that he thought she could see spirits, but the girl found the suggestion ridiculous and accused him of being delusional. Kyung Ho was perplexed as to why the girl didn't want others to know about something. She walked away, but he grabbed her hoodie and turned her around. She told him to let it go, as she couldn't handle it anymore. Kyung Ho realized that he had called her crazy earlier, and she was hurt by it. The girl told him that she hated when people referred to her as crazy and asked him to leave her alone. Kyung Ho apologized for what had happened earlier, but he had something important to discuss with her. She said loudly that he shouldn't follow her, and that she couldn't handle it anymore. They noticed two men in suits and black goggles walking towards them. The girl grabbed Kyung Ho and told him to hide until they passed. Once the men were gone, they sat on a stair. Kyung Ho wondered why the girl was still so upset, as the men had left, when a child ran past them screaming about ghosts. Kyung Ho was confused by the commotion and asked the girl next to him if she was headed the same way. However, the girl was unsure if she should still ask for his help since she had already asked for his assistance earlier. Despite this, Kyung Ho told her to wait for him while he investigated the situation. He had heard the child's comment about ghosts, and the atmosphere felt eerie. The girl sat down near a vibrating box, which seemed to have someone inside. Kyung Ho asked the girl what she planned to do with the box and canned tuna she had with her. She told him to leave if he was only interested in watching her. Kyung Ho agreed to just watch. The girl wondered why the spirit was still not at peace. Kyung Ho told her that cats like to play with grass. He had looked up things that cats love on the internet and suggested trying a plastic bag if that didn't work. He noticed that the cat was picky and thought it might help if he could see it without touching it. He also observed that hair is a part of the body. Kyung Ho came across a scary cat spirit and got frightened. He saw a girl walking towards the spirit and tried to stop her. Despite Kyung Ho's warning about the potential danger, the girl reassured him that the spirit might not be as harmful as it seemed. She approached the spirit and speculated that it might have been an abandoned cat, showing empathy for its apparent dislike of people. Suddenly, she noticed a color in front of her and became visibly upset upon realizing that someone had put a cat into the paint can. In a fit of anger, she removed the cat from the can and tried to clean it off. Kyung Ho went to buy some water. A girl is concerned that a spirit is very angry because of a child mistreating a kitten. She saw Hyojong, who was beaten up by Kyung-ho earlier. She thinks they were the ones who put the kitten into a paint can. A guy who looks like their leader is lecturing about how they were beaten up by just one kid. Hyojong and his two friends bow their heads and apologize for their defeat. It seems like the leader must be very angry. Then suddenly, the girl appeared and inquired about who had put that cat into the paint can. These guys were confused about who she was and why she suddenly appeared. Leader boy says to a girl that he thinks she found the wrong place. And how about she go play somewhere else? The girl confronts a guy who seems to be their leader, and he admits to putting the kitten in the paint can. The leader laughed at her, but the girl slapped him. She told him not to laugh because he didn't know how angry the kitten's mother was. She demanded an apology for what he had done. The leader approached the girl and asked what she was talking about. She slapped him again and demanded an apology, threatening to make him do it if he refused. The leader grabbed her hoodie and asked why he should apologize. He raised his hand to slap her, but suddenly Kyung-ho appeared and asked what was going on, telling the leader to let her go. Hyojong and his guys recognized Kyung-ho as the one who had beaten them up earlier. The girl sat on the ground. The leader acknowledged Kyung-ho as the one who made his guys suffer. Hyojong mentioned that Kyung-ho was also a boxer and told everyone to stay alert. The leader told Hyojong to shut up and prepared to fight Kyung-ho. Kyung-ho tried to pull a ticket out of his pocket, but it wasn't there. Before he realized it, the leader punched him in the stomach and then in the head, causing Kyung-ho to fall to the ground. He saw a ticket in front of him at some distance. He tried to grab that ticket, but the boy stood in his hand. Kyung-ho managed to grab the ticket and tried to tear it, but at the same time, on the other side, Hyojong grabbed the girl's hand. The girl screamed, and her scream was heard throughout the entire area. Upon hearing her, Hyojong raised his hand to slap her, but suddenly he realized that some men in black suits with goggles were running towards him. One of them stopped Hyojong from slapping the girl. It seemed like they were the girl's bodyguards. At that moment, the area was surrounded by a large number of bodyguards, and the girl tried to hide from them. One of her bodyguards called her father to inform him that they found her. Another bodyguard grabbed the leader boy's face and lifted his entire body with one hand, scaring the leader. The girl told the bodyguards to stop and just put them in the police station. The girl wondered what she should do, as she couldn't remove the paint and the kitten seemed unable to move. One of her bodyguards said to give it to him, as he had been helping a veterinarian in the hospital. He put the cat on the ground and checked its heartbeat. The girl mentioned that there was still more paint on the cat that needed to be taken off. The bodyguard said that there was no hospital nearby and something wrong had happened to the cat. He realized that the atmosphere had suddenly become chilly and the air was getting colder than before. The girl wiped her tears with her hand because she felt bad about the cat. Kyung-ho touched her hair to observe the spirit's situation and saw that the sadness of losing a family member had made the spirit more aggressive. Kyung-ho walked toward a cat cube and tore an underworld ticket. We could see a James Aereo spirit inside Kyung-ho's body, who is a great veterinary surgeon. Kyung-ho started to provide first aid to the cat, but the spirit became angry. Despite Kyung-ho's efforts, the cat eventually moved and returned to normal. The girl was surprised to see this, and the angry spirit transformed into a cat and licked its child, leaving her astonished. After some time, the cat spirit disappeared into the sky and attained peace. Kyung-ho told the girl she didn't have to thank him since he genuinely wanted to help. The girl responded that wasn't what she wanted to say. She asked her bodyguard for a band-aid, but he gave her a cute, pink, childish one, which embarrassed her. She asked for another, but the bodyguard denied he had only that one. She then put the band-aid on Kyung-ho's face. One of her bodyguards advised her not to go outside like this because her father would be angry if he found out. The bodyguard gave Kyung-ho a business card and told him to go to the hospital, get treated, and contact him for the medical fees. As the girl was leaving with her bodyguards, she turned back and introduced herself as Han Chae-yun, the daughter of the Sien Group CEO. In another nighttime scene, Kyung-ho is near Chae-yun's house. He is pleased to learn that she is the daughter of the CEO of Sien Group, as it makes it easier to locate her house with just the address. Kyung-ho wears a mask and a cap to conceal his identity. He remembers hearing that she is not allowed to leave the house and that the guards do not even allow acquaintances to meet her. He thinks that anyone who sees him like this might think he is a thief, and it would be over for him if he got reported to the police. Suddenly, he tears a ticket and runs toward a large wall in front of him. He climbs the wall in one try, channeling the spirit of Derek Hersey, a climbing expert. He thinks this is the only way to meet her, but at the top of the wall, he sees dozens of bodyguards with torches surrounding her house. He realizes that with so many bodyguards, it would be impossible to reach her no matter how many attempts he makes. He is sure these guards are just as strong as the ones he saw previously. As he surveys the many bodyguards, he comes up with an idea. The next morning, we see Han Tae-yob, who is the CEO of Sien Group and Chae-yun's father. He is angry with his manager and a group of men because they were unable to manage one girl. He mentions that he is more sensitive because there was an attempt on Chae-yun's life by a killer, and as a result, he disagrees with Chae-yun going outside of the house. This is why Chae-yun is hiding from her bodyguards. Just then, he receives a call from his daughter, Chae-yun, who is complaining that there are way too many bodyguards and she does not need this menu. She wants to go outside, but her father shuts her up, saying that she needs them as the killer is still on the loose. He is worried about her health because she is not eating properly and is getting paler and thinner by the day. His secretary suggests he be more lenient towards her, as she does not know why she needs protection. Han Tae tells him that he does not want her to experience that trauma again. He then asks if any applicant for the bodyguard stands out, and his secretary tells him that there is one, whose name is Choi Byum, inheritor of Cheon Moo-do. Han Tae says that this name sounds familiar and asks if he is strong. Kyung-ho also applies for the role of bodyguard, comes for the interview, and sits next to Choi Byum. Kyung-ho was feeling pressured because of the tense atmosphere, as there were only adult applicants there. The second physical assessment is going to be a strength test, and the applicants were told to choose a weight that they could lift. Kyung knew that he could easily pass it by using the ticket. Later in the gymnasium, we see Kyung getting ready to lift the weight while two other guys are laughing at him, saying why such a kid has applied and that they were sure that he was going to fail. One of them says that he wishes them to be in the same group so that he can beat him up. Kyung paid no attention to their chat and then went on to lift 80 kilograms and receive an A, which left the other applicants shocked. This was his limit, and he couldn't fully utilize the powers he took from the ticket as his body was not adapted like that of a professional weightlifter. He thinks that this should be enough to pass the test, though, and they will not disregard him from the list. Just then, he sees Choi Byum lifting 175 kilograms and receiving an A+. Kyung remarks that all those who applied for bodyguards are monsters. The applicants are then given a 30-minute break to rest and warm up, as the next test will be sparring. Choi Byum is bored thinking about how he is surrounded by weaklings. Just then his eyes see Kyung-ho practicing, and he immediately notices that all of Kyung-ho's attacks were hitting the vital spots had that training dummy been a human. Choi Byum sees his name card, which states his name and group, and is disappointed to learn that Kyung-ho is in Group A while he is in Group B, and he would not be able to fight him. However, Choi thinks that it's easy to rile up such young people, so he goes to Kyung-ho and pours a bottle of water over him, saying that he must have been drunk and that he should chill down. However, instead of reacting to this, Kyung-ho thanked Choi, saying that he was indeed feeling hot. Choi thinks that he is trying to hide his anger, though now he cannot do anything, so he leaves. Kyung thinks to himself, is this guy crazy? He contemplates that he does not want to get into trouble and fail his application to become a bodyguard. As Choi was walking in the lobby, he noticed a guy from Group B referring to other Group B members as weaklings and trash and saying that he could easily pass the sparring test. So Choi proves him in a fight by calling him a piggy, and then he proceeds to beat up every single member of Group B. He thinks now he might be able to fight Kyung-ho. It was time for sparring now, and the referee repeated several times, asking the Group B candidates to gather. Choi shows up and asks how much longer he has to wait. The referee requested that he wait for a while, saying that something may have happened and that's why it's taking other candidates time to show up. After a while, the referee apologizes for the wait and announces the start of 1v1 sparring matches. Kyung-ho was feeling relieved that he was in Group A and wouldn't have to fight all those monsters. Just then, the referee announces the first fight, Kyung-ho versus Choi Byum, saying that all the candidates in Group B except Choi Byum have withdrawn, and will have to take fighters from Group A and start the test. Both of them are asked to enter the ring. As they both stood face to face, other candidates started telling Kyung to back off. Meanwhile, Choi tells him to go ahead and hit first. However, he puts the condition that Kyung cannot leave the ring for 1 minute. Facing him, Kyung feels his tremendous aura and remarks that since Choi has been professionally trained to fight, he is on a completely different level as compared to the bullies that Kyung has beaten in the past. However, Kyung is determined to meet Chai, and thus he cannot give up. As Kyung was thinking, Choi warned him that he was tired of waiting, and if he did not hit him in the next 10 seconds, he would start the fight himself. Kyung then mustered his courage and threw one kick, and Choi went down and fell unconscious. All the candidates were surprised at this, and the referee announced Kyung Ho as the winner. Kyung himself is surprised as to why this monster fell just after one hit. Kyung Ho used the power of Lee So-hyub, who is the founder of Cheon Mu-do, and his hobby was to make his disciples faint with one strike. As Kyung Ho defeated other candidates in subsequent rounds, he noticed that the number of people looking down on him started to decrease, but they started to be wary of him now. He thinks that he had no idea that this test would become this easy after using the ticket. Meanwhile, the secretary curses him while watching from afar, saying that he is getting in the way of his plans and he needs to look into him. The third and final test will be an interview directly with the CEO himself. All candidates are given 10 minutes to prepare, and the interview will last for around 15 minutes. The guy sitting across from Kyung Ho asks him if he knows what kind of questions will be asked in the interview, to which Kyung replies that he does not. The guy remarks that, then, how can he act so carefree? He continues that he thinks the questions are going to be very tough, as none of the candidates coming out of the interview were happy. He further adds that people are still trying, as they even provide proficiency pay so the salary will be high. Kyung did not know that and was surprised to hear it. The guy remarks that he did come without knowing anything and tells him that thousands of guys like him fail because they did not invest properly beforehand. He then tells him that he should have paid attention to this matter as everyone here is risking their lives for the job, and he tells him that he should keep this advice in mind as it is coming from an adult. Kyung thanks him and says that the interview should be very difficult. However, he is not worried, as this time he chose the power of expert bodyguard Robert de Stuart Farrow. Meanwhile, in the interview room, we see Mr. Han Tae growing impatient and saying, "How could there be no one competent?" and asking what Choi Byum's number is. As the assistant was about to answer his question, candidate number 21 Kyung Ho was called in, and after taking a glance at him, the CEO already formed a bad opinion about him as he was short and skinny. As he was about to reject him, he was shocked by seeing the test results of Kyung Ho. He remarks that number 21 scores have been amazing, even when tests were really difficult. Kyung thought that, of course, he would get a perfect score as he used the powers of Jong Dong-ho, the chief security officer of Chongwha-dae. Han Tae is surprised and thinks that there is another talented individual besides Choi Byum, but suddenly he sees the test results and is shocked to see Kyung Ho in first place in sparring. His assistant then tells him that Kyung is the person who defeated Choi Byum. The CEO asks the assistant if he is sure about this, to which the assistant replies yes, and it has already been verified by CCTV. The CEO then apologizes to Kyung Ho for judging him based on his looks and not realizing that he is a competent person. He then asks Kyung Ho if he will be able to risk his life to protect what he is meant to protect. Kyung Ho replies with a determined look that he fears nothing and will do his very best to protect whatever he is tasked to protect. As the CEO was about to finalize, his secretary suddenly entered the room, telling him that he had something urgent to tell him. He tells the CEO that Kyung Ho's documents are fabricated. He has lied about his age, and he is only 17 years old. He then adds that he may have cheated on the written test, and even if he has excellent fighting abilities and can become a good bodyguard, it's still dangerous to hire someone suspicious like him. The CEO then asks Kyung if he can ask him some questions about the written tests. Kyung tells him to go ahead. The CEO asks him what the two most important objectives of a bodyguard are. Kyung could not think of anything regarding this. The CEO then asks him some more questions, and Kyung Ho is still blank about them. He wonders why he is unable to answer them, and at the time he took the test, he easily answered the questions. Kyung Ho then realized that at the time of the test, he used the powers of a Korean bodyguard, and this guy whose powers he is currently using is a foreigner, so he does not know about a foreign country. The CEO asks him how he could achieve a perfect score on the exam when he does not know even the basic bodyguard terminology if he has not cheated. Kyung says that he did not cheat, but the CEO refuses to believe him and says that even if you are talented to the point that you can beat Choi Byum, he still cannot risk having someone like him protect his daughter, as most things about him are suspicious. He then asks Kyung to leave, and Kyung realizes that he has failed. Kyung is devastated as he realizes that he will not be able to meet Chai, and thus he cannot find his mother. Just then, Chae-yun bursts into the office and complains to her father about why he hasn't fired all the bodyguards yet, as she asked him for her birthday present. Han-tae tells him that he is in the middle of an interview. Chai says that she does not see anyone, but then she looks around and spots Kyung, who says hi to her. She wonders what he is doing here, but then she tells her father that it's not important and complains about how she is frustrated with all these bodyguards around her. Her father tells her that it cannot happen and tells her to return home before he gets angry. Chai then points at Kyung and tells her father that he should appoint him then, as she is okay with him being her bodyguard. The next day, when Kyung-ho arrives at the mansion, he is greeted by a lady who exclaims that he looks young compared to the other bodyguards there. Kyung says that he is 17 years old. Kyung-ho goes to his room and then thinks that now he is her bodyguard and he does not have to go to school anymore, so he can start focusing on finding his mother. Meanwhile, in the office, we see the secretary telling Han-tae that it is dangerous to hire a man who has lied about his age and has questionable competence. Han-tae reads aloud that his name is Lee Kyung-ho, he is 17 years old and is a dropout, and he remarks that other than taking Choi Byum in a single kick, there is nothing suspicious about him and he is just an ordinary kid. He then continues that there have been 27 instances where Chae-yun has been followed by suspicious people, and all of them are highly trained individuals. They started to escape as soon as they sensed any movement from their side, thus making it impossible to catch them. He then adds that they will not expect a kid the same age as Chae-yun to be her bodyguard and says that he did not want to opt for such a risky method, but he has no other choice. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Kyung-ho is looking for Chae-yun all around the house. Just then, he sees her passing through in front of him, and he shouts to her, saying to wait for him. Just then, another bodyguard comes and stops him, asking what he is doing and telling him to refer to her as a young lady. The bodyguard then tells him that he cannot just go and greet her, as his identity is still unclear, and tells him to follow him. In the room, he sees Kang Yong-man standing in front of him, who is the second team leader, can lift 220 kilograms, and is quite strong. He asks Kyung if he is a bodyguard, and Kyung-ho confirms that. As he is trying to do a handshake with him, Kang hugs him, telling him that this is how men should greet each other. He then tells Suk how tiny Kyung-ho is, who tells him not to get too attached to him, tells Kyung-go that he still does not see him as a bodyguard, and tells him that if he wants to be treated equally, he must hone his skills first. This man, Lee Ji-suk, is the first team leader and an expert in kendo. He further adds that if he is thinking of taking this lightly, then he should just leave. Asks Shane, the man sitting across from him, if he is correct. Shane Dwatsel nodded. Kyung-ho thinks that Shane does not understand a word of what Lee is saying. Lee further adds that 3 people agree here. Kang tells him to be more lenient with this kid, and Kyung-ho thinks that Kang is a good guy. Lee then gives Kyung a pen with GPS in it, telling him that it will help them track his location and telling him to keep it with him at all times. Kyung-ho asks, when can he meet Chae-yun? Lee tells him to stop doing such useless things and tells him that he will be under his supervision for a month. Just then, someone started knocking vigorously at the door. He can hear Chae-yun on the other side complaining that she wants to go out and visit the sky park while the bodyguard is telling her that the CEO has ordered her to stay at home as it is dangerous outside. But Chae-yun keeps shouting at him. Kyung-ho contemplates how he thought it would be over once he became her bodyguard, but it is getting harder. Meanwhile, we see the secretary tearing a picture of Choi Byum while cursing him on how he destroyed his plan because of his foolish actions. Just then, he receives a call from an unknown number. The secretary apologizes to the person, saying that they have failed and telling him that this time an unidentified person came and knocked out his client in one hit. But he assures him that this time they have trustworthy people on standby and assures him that he will not let him down. The person on call reminds him of the deadline, to which he replies that he will start immediately. The person on the other end of the call says that he is looking forward to it. Kyung-ho suddenly decided to experiment with something, and he put out a ticket and threw it, and then he saw the names of all the people that he could use. He then tried to restore the ticket, but he did not use any powers, and to his surprise, the ticket was restored. He concluded that if he does not choose a soul even after tearing a ticket, then the ticket goes back to normal. He then remembers that the previous soul, whose powers he borrowed, did not know anything about Korea, so he decided to experiment. Then Kyung-ho randomly threw the ticket in the garden and then subconsciously found it. He then writes it down in his diary as rule number 7. The user of the ticket can locate it subconsciously. He decides to try it again. Chae-yun is watching from her balcony, wondering what this idiot is doing, walking back and forth like a fool. She thinks that she has a lot of souls to help, and so she decides to use Kyung-ho to get out. She then tells her bodyguard that she has a headache and that she would like to go for a walk. In the garden, they walk near Kyung-ho, who extends his arm on seeing Chae-yun to greet her, but Lee Suk grabs his hand and tosses him over his shoulder, telling him that he should not approach the young lady so recklessly. Suddenly, Chae-yun comes in between them and tells Lee Suk to stop being rude to Kyung-ho, as he is her friend from kindergarten. Lee Suk apologizes, saying that he did not know that Kyung-ho was her friend. She then tells him that she will have a walk with Kyung-ho as they have a lot of stuff to talk about and will be back after 30 minutes. Lee Suk is against this, but after some argument, he agrees, telling her that they should be back in 20 minutes. As they are walking, Kyung-ho thinks to himself that she does not hate her, while Chae-yun is thinking about how she can get rid of him. She thinks that she can use her charm and then put him to sleep using sleeping spray. Meanwhile, Kyung-ho, confused, asked her if they were friends. Chai replies that she just lied to him, and Kyung asks her the reason. She tells him that she wants to spend some time alone with him while acting cute. Kyung-ho ignores her, saying that he does not care about this, and asks her why there are so many bodyguards. She was surprised that her charms did not work on him, but she decided to give it another try and again told him that she used to be very weak physically in the past, and now that she has recovered, she has lost most of her memories and tells him that maybe she knows something important, and that is why the murderer is after her. Kyung-ho recalls that he did hear about a murderer, so he nods. She then continues to tell him that she felt really happy when he saved her that day and tells him that she is a princess and that he is her prince, who protects her while holding his hand. Kyung-ho thinks that this girl is crazy, and then he tells her that he is not a prince. He is just a bodyguard. Chae-yun walks away, cursing at how dumb this fool is. Kyung-ho is hoping that she is not mad at him and thinking about whether he should tell her about his mom. As Chae-yun was walking, her leg slipped and Kyung-ho rushed and managed to catch her before she fell. She thanks him and then tells him to close his eyes, saying that she would like to thank him more. Kyung-ho reluctantly closes his eyes, thinking if she is going to kiss him. Instead, she sprays sleeping spray at him, making Kyung-ho lose consciousness and tells him to forget what she said earlier, as it was an act. She then walks out of the mansion, joyfully shouting about freedom. Meanwhile, in a gang base somewhere, we see a mafia boss telling someone on the other end of the phone that they do not care about how many bodyguards there are and telling the person to tell the name of the target. The person on the other end of the call says that the target's name is Chae-yun. As Kyung-ho was lying asleep on the floor, Lee Suk arrived there. He picked him up, slapped him to wake him up, and then asked about the whereabouts of the young lady. He tells him that she sprayed him with sleeping gas and ran away. Lee Suk immediately conveys the situation to the rest of the bodyguards through a walkie-talkie and tells them to start searching for the young lady, as it has been 20 minutes since she ran away. One of the bodyguards finds a hole in the wall and tells Lee Suk that she must have escaped through that hole. Lee Suk summons all the bodyguards in the garden and tells them that they need to find the young lady fast. Meanwhile, we see one of the bodyguards' messages to Han Tae's secretary that Chae-yun has run away from the house, leaving behind all the bodyguards. Lee Suk tells everyone that it's because of his carelessness that the young lady managed to escape, and he then tells everyone that it has been 20 to 30 minutes since she escaped, so they must search all the places she visits. Every team leader is assigned an area, and the bodyguards all go out to search for her. As Lee Suk is thinking about how to find her, Kyung-ho approaches and asks him, since it is his fault that she managed to escape, if he can help with the search. Lee Suk looks at him and tells him that if anything happens to Chae-yun, then he will kill him. He then orders other bodyguards to look everywhere in the city and be vigilant, as she might be hiding somewhere. Kyung-ho is sitting on some stairs while blaming himself and cursing about what the use of having this power is if he cannot do anything. Suddenly, he gets an idea and decides to do that. Meanwhile, in a dojo, we see two wrestlers sparring, in which the guy in blue wins, and then in the second round, he again breaks the arm of his new sparring partner, and the guy starts screaming with pain. The guy in blue tells him to shut up, or he will throw him again. He then receives a call from a client, who tells him that the target has run away from her house. The other guy kept screaming, so he kicked him in the jaw, and he fell unconscious. We see that it is the secretary on the other end of the phone, and he tells him that she ran away from the mansion like 30 minutes ago, so he should get his guys ready. The guy in blue replies to him that they will get on it, and then he tells his guys to get ready to move. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Lee Suk is worried, as they have still not found her, and they have already searched more than half of the city. He tells every bodyguard to move fast, as it is really dangerous for her to be outside for more than an hour, and tells them to search in the places where the young lady wants to go. Meanwhile, we see a hacker searching through the city CCTVs, and he finds Chai Yun on camera 13. Lee Suk receives a report from the team leaders that they have searched all the places but haven't found her yet. Lee Suk thinks that it has already been 3 hours, and they are still unable to find her. Suddenly, bad thoughts start crossing his mind, such as that young lady has been killed. He slaps himself to stop thinking about such things and declares that they will find her no matter what. Just then, he receives a picture on his mobile phone of the young lady taken through a CCTV feed. We then see that the hacker who sent him the picture is Kyung Ho, who is using the powers of Ernest Chapman, who was a cybersecurity officer in the FBI. He thinks about who would have sent him this picture. He considers the possibility that maybe the kidnappers sent it, but immediately disregards it and says that it must have been sent by a bodyguard. He then decides to find out about who sent it later and conveys the message to all the bodyguards through a walkie-talkie that the young miss is in Sky Park, so they should all head there and report to him as soon as they find her. He also gets in a car and rushes there. Meanwhile, we see that one of the bodyguards shares this information with a secretary, who tells those goons about the location, and they all also start heading to Sky Park. Meanwhile, in Sky Park, Chai Yun is talking to a bird, and while applying first aid to him, she tells him that his mother's soul is right here, and she is really worried about him. After a while, the bird flew away. Chai Yun pats herself and proudly declares that she has done another good job. So as a reward, she deserves to eat one more ice cream. We see two punks following her and matching her with the photo they had and remarks that target found. Kyung Ho, who is seeing this through the CCTV, gets worried about this, wondering who these guys are and where the bodyguards are. He hears on the walkie-talkie that the bodyguards are stuck in a traffic jam. Kyung Ho exclaims that this is bad and runs while holding a ticket in his hand. Meanwhile, Lee Suk is stuck in the jam and asks his companion to go and check what has happened. He is still 7 kilometers away from Sky Park, and it will take him 10 minutes to reach there once the jam is over. He hopes that the young miss does not leave the park in the meantime. His companion returns and informs him that there has been an accident on the road and a car is stuck in the intersection, which is why there is a jam. Just then, he receives another image in which he sees that 2 guys are following Chai Yun. Chai Yun took a triple-flavored ice cream stacked on top of each other, which she wanted to eat for a while, and sat on a park bench. As she was enjoying her ice cream, the guy grabbed her from behind while covering her mouth with a handkerchief and kidnapped her. The ice cream fell from her hand. Meanwhile, in the office, Mr. CEO is anxious and shouting at the bodyguards to do something now, or he will go out to find those people. He warns them that if anything happens to Chai Yun, they will not be forgiven. Lee Suk, while stuck in traffic, asks other teams about their status. The other team leader informs him that there has been an accident on the route they have taken as well, and teams 3, 4, and 5 are on the same road, so they are stuck as well. Lee Suk slams his head on the driving wheel while cursing. Just then, someone flew past him. It was Kyung Ho, who was cruising on a skateboard at a high speed while using the powers of a world-famous skateboarder, stating that it would take him 5 minutes to reach there. The kids on the road exclaimed that he was faster than a cheetah, and they wondered if he was an athlete.